गिरिवरदारी
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी
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 जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी
जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
यमुना तीरा वनचारी
जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी
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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
जय राधा कुंज बिहारी राधे
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 जय जगन्नाथ जय हवदे मई सुभद्रा
जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा मई सुभद्रा
जय श्रीनाथ जी जय
Nath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Shri Nath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo
Jai Nama Sankirtana Ki
Jai.
Prabhupada Ki Koti Vaishnava Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Jnana
Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna everyone. So welcome to our Bhakti Vriksha session. In our continued modified format in light of the situation that we are all confronting and battling, this COVID-19. We've learned so much about it. So very important that we take to the necessary precautions and pay great attention to the advice and guidance we're getting from our various institutions or government to protect all of us and to protect everyone from this virus. And it is important that we don't make light of those situations, but that we follow them sincerely. It is for our own benefit and for the benefit of all around us. We went out for a walk today, and it was nice to see everybody, following and crossing streets and crossing paths just to keep good distance. And it was nice to see, actually, in the midst of this, so many families united. Normally, when we walk, you don't see so many families together, but by the lack of so many divergent activities, the families have become closer and engaging together. So something nice has manifested out of this very difficult and bad situation. One of the blessings we have, we go through life and we're always wishing one thing. We wish we had more time. We wanted 1 extra hour in the day or 1 extra day in the week because we have so many things we wanted to get to. Well, in this era, we have so many things that have been taken away from us. There's no more commuting to the office for most people, no more taking children to different activities, different social functions have been curtailed and whatnot. And so, we have now with us this more time. And the question is, what are we doing with it? Are we making great use of this additional time? Sometimes when we speak about practicing Krishna consciousness, the idea comes, oh, I know, but I don't have time to chant my rounds or to read Bhagavad Gita. I wish we could do it. Well, in an indirect way, our wish is fulfilled. We have more time now. And if we learn to build good spiritual habits today, when there is a little bit less pressure on our time, when the hectic and the rigor of our daily schedule returns at some point in the future, we may have a good foundation of our spiritual life to create real happiness in this life. Because our only suffering, our only real difficulty in this life is from our separation from Krishna. Everything else is but a temporary suffering. And so, in this time of bodily challenges, which are real and not one to take lightly, as I mentioned in the beginning, but as we take this opportunity and use this time in front of us very wisely and build nice, strong foundation of spiritual habits, then we can carry forward when the rest of our activities come back. We can create this as the base and foundation for everything that we do. So it's an opportunity for us to build some good habits now and work towards a greater future for all of us, and not just ourselves, but for all those around us by the practice of Krishna consciousness. So in this 11th chapter, we are concluding this chapter today. Krishna has shown Arjuna his universal form. And Arjuna has gone through a roller coaster of emotions. And he has come back in the 51st verse when Arjuna saw Krishna in his original form. He said, "O Janardana, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind and I am restored to my original nature." So this original form of Krishna, this two-handed form, three-bending, Shyama Sundara form of Krishna, is the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom all different avatars come in all different expansions. And Arjuna was restored to his original nature, having now seen this form. And Krishna said in the 52nd verse that this form of his that he was showing is very difficult to see. And then in the 54th verse, Krishna says, "My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding." So Krishna gives the direct formula of how to have this same experience Arjuna had. And Arjuna came to a very settled and composed position, restored to my original nature. And our original nature is not to roam this material world, trying to find ways to eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and defend nicely. That is not our eternal nature. Our eternal nature is one, and that is to be in loving service with the Supreme Father, Lord Sri Krishna. That is our eternal nature. And as we come to see Krishna in his original form, which is not so easy, but when we do, then we'll find great peace and happiness. So the formula is relatively simple. Do undivided devotional service. That's what it says. Only by undivided devotional service. But now, what is undivided devotional service? So Krishna, in the final verse, which we'll discuss today, gives the specific formula, the recipe to this formula. So we'll read this verse and then some of the purport. "My dear Arjuna," this is the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. "My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living entity, he certainly comes to me." So Krishna is giving 5 things, 5 ingredients into this perfection of recipe, right? Of rendering pure devotional service to achieve perfection of life. So we'll read, this is a long purport, so we'll read paragraph by paragraph and discuss a little bit, and we'll see how many paragraphs of this purport we can get through today, and if we don't finish, we'll get through the rest of it next week, because this is a very important purport and a very important verse. So the first paragraph reads as follows. "Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality, Krishna, must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature, and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now, here in this verse, which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in spiritual activity, devotional service. So, rendering of devotional service, this is the essence, the essential instruction that Krishna is giving to Arjuna. Become my devotee. Think of me. Offer your homages to me. Offer your obeisances to me. These 4 things. Man mana bhakto majni mam namaskuru. You do these 4 things. And if you do so, you will come to me. That's what he says. So, Prabhupada is explaining in this purport that the Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls. What are conditioned souls? Well, we in the material world are swimming in this ocean of material existence, trying to understand how to make sense of everything. And we are constantly being thrown to different difficulties, trials and tribulations, birth, death, old age, certainly disease, particularly in today's environment. You know, difficulties of the mind and body, difficulties of other living entities, conflict, difficulties of Mother Nature around us, these adhyatmik, adhibhautik, adhidaivik, these difficulties, they're always there. And why are they present? Because we have this propensity to lord it over nature. This idea of our independent existence. But our real identity, our real nature is one. And that is to be in loving relationship and service with Krishna. And so, the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is saying, is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality. This is the key to perfection of life. As soon as we awaken this relationship with the Supreme Lord, everything becomes peaceful and blissful. But as soon as this relationship is obscured, everything becomes difficult. So whenever we experience difficulties, whenever we perceive challenges, we can understand it simply as we are viewing that situation, not remembering. We are eternally connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in that existence, in relationship with the Supreme Lord, there is no difficulty. There is no duality. It is pure bliss. And that is the nature of the spiritual world, which this Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to go back home, back to Godhead. Well, what is so special about going back home, back to Godhead? That we may want to understand in order to draw some inspiration. Well, there, one experiences a life where there is no difficulties of any sort. There is no old age. There is no death. There is no disease. No difficulties of the body. There is no difficulties of nature or no conflict. Everything is bliss. And what is everybody doing in that type of state? They have only one singular activity. And that is rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one may ask why. And the reason is very simple. That is the most pleasing activity for each of us as spirit soul. The intrinsic nature of our spirit soul is to render loving service to Krishna. Actually, there is nothing else that will give us pleasure. But we have been searching for so many other ways to find happiness. Through wealth, through fame, through beauty, through strength, intelligence, through health. But none of that, when we achieve it, gives us the satisfaction we are longing for. Why? Because that is not our nature. Just as much as a fish out of water will never find happiness. No matter what you give it, that fish out of water will never find happiness because it's not in its natural environment. Similarly, the spirit soul, each of us as living entities, when we are disconnected from Krishna, we are not in our natural element. And thus, no matter what arrangements we make, we will not find happiness. Right now, in the depths of this very difficult situation, we have this idea that if we can solve this COVID-19, everything would be great. But we know, just 6 months ago, was everything great? Was everything perfect? No, we were struggling then too. Yes, we are struggling more now, but in the future, there will also be struggle. Unless one awakens their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the only means of perfection in life. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I am so unfortunate, Durdeva. What is his misfortune? Not that he doesn't have his health, or he doesn't have enough wealth, or anything else. Only misfortune? no attraction for chanting the holy names of the Lord. Because if we have attraction to chanting the holy names of the Lord, then we can render this pure devotional service and find our way back to perfection of life. And the beauty is that when one practices pure devotional service, one doesn't have to wait to go home back to Godhead to experience the bliss of that existence. It can be had immediately because it is a state of consciousness. And that is the beauty of this situation that Krishna has arranged. And so in the beginning of this purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about Krishna Loka, where one can be intimately connected with the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoys most when his devotees are very intimately associating with him. Associating with him as a friend, as a parent, as a servant, or as a lover. And that intimate association, without any awe and reverence, but very personal relationship with Krishna, it exists in Krishna Loka. There are many unlimited planets within the spiritual sky. They are called Vaikuntha Lokas. But sitting above Vaikuntha Loka is Krishna Loka, where Krishna, in his original two-armed form that he has just shown Arjuna, resides. Krishna in his two-armed form does not reside in any other Vaikuntha planet. There he resides in his Narayana form. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that approach to Supreme Personality Godhead on Krishna Loka's planet is very kindly guiding us. And later in this purport, he's going to give us a little bit more information about that. So this first paragraph reminds us of our condition of being separated from Krishna, trying to enjoy the material world, in which there is no success, no matter how much we try. But quick success in this existence can be had by rendering pure devotional service. So what is pure devotional service? How does one render devotional service? So that we'll discuss in the next couple paragraphs. So as far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. As stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anashaktasya Vishaya Nyatada Mupayanjate Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. No work should be done by man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the fruit of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is a work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna. And he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna. And one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there. But it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land in India, at least any poor man has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers to offer to him. One can sow tulsi plants because tulsi leaves are very important. And Krishna has recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or a little water. And by such offering he is satisfied. This leaf refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi and pour water on the plant. Thus even the poorest man can engage in service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. So Krishna said in this verse, just to remind us, that he says, he who works for me. So this pure devotional service is very practical. When we say pure devotional service, immediately our sentiment becomes, oh, I cannot do that, or maybe it's not for me, because I have so many other activities, I have my family, my job, my home, my children, different activities. But Krishna consciousness is extraordinarily practical. And Krishna says, don't give up everything. Just do everything in knowledge of me, understanding who is the real doer. So in this verse that Prabhupada has quoted from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this Yukta Vairagya, this real renunciation is very an important principle. Because what it means is that one works for Krishna knowing who is the real doer. In times like this, we are reminded of our very limited control. We want to do so many things, but due to forces beyond our control, we are limited. We are unable to do. But actually, every ounce of our existence, we are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every breath we take, who is providing the air? Every grain of food we eat. You can be the richest person in the world, but if you don't have simple rice to eat or some types of food grains to eat, you'll have nothing. And who is providing the sun for these crops to grow and the rains to fertilize and cultivate the field? Who is providing the earth, the minerals, such that you plant a seed and some foodstuffs will grow? Who is providing all of that? It is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has already established this in the 3rd chapter. So, Krishna is in every step of our life. So anything we do, we may have a great business, but what raw materials we are using to manufacture whatever goods we are making in our factory, where they came from. Ultimately, they come from earth. And who is the owner of this earth? It is Krishna. We came into this world with nothing, and we will leave this world with nothing. So who is the real proprietor? It is Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor. So whatever facilities we may generate by manipulating the different resources of this world, the intelligent person knows Krishna is the proprietor. He is the owner. I am an instrument in his plan. And thus, he does his work. It doesn't mean, okay, Krishna is a proprietor, I have nothing to do. No. The devotee, the pure devotee, has great enthusiasm in building businesses, in cultivating agricultural fields, in doing whatever business or service they have. But knowing who is the proprietor. And by doing so, they offer the fruits to Krishna because they're his. The devotees think, oh, okay, Krishna, be grateful, I'm renouncing my fruits to you. No, the devotee, these are yours in the first place. Just like a child, a child who offers something to his father, goes into his room and makes some, gift. And then he takes that gift and offers to father. The father is very lovingly accepting that gift. But who provided all the materials for that child to make the gift? Father. He is the proprietor. But still, the father is appreciative. So Krishna, yes, he is the proprietor, but he still greatly appreciates when we offer. Whatever it is that we have. If we have big ability, Krishna will accept it. And you can build giant temples and distribute millions of books for Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada said. But if you have a simple tulsi plant or a flower, and that is what you can offer, that also is pleasing to Krishna. But guess what? Krishna is not pleased by the quantity of what we give. What pleases him most is by how little we actually keep for ourselves. So according to our ability, how much are we rendering service to Krishna? Because at the end of the day, even if we are the most powerful, most wonderful businessman, just using because Prabhupada is speaking here, in relation to Krishna's wealth, can we even offer him anything? Krishna's wealth is of unlimited universes. We are trying to aggregate some wealth from this limited single planet. So anyways, even if we think we are big, 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 millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, nothing in scope of Krishna. So Krishna is not looking for that. He is looking for the sincerity of our love. And yesterday we were discussing the beautiful pastime of Lord Ramachandra and the building of the bridge. And when the giant monkeys were bringing big, big stones and boulders to construct the bridge, also coming along was the tiny squirrel who was dipping his tail in the water and then coming up to the shore with the wet tail accumulating a few grains of dirt and then dropping those few grains of dirt on that bridge. Now what a few grains of dirt can do when the honor army were bringing giant mountains, can it amount to anything of tangible value? From an external perspective, no. But when that squirrel was criticized for getting in the way of the construction of that bridge, Lord Ramchandra became very upset. And he said, that squirrel is serving me to its ability. And his service is as pleasing as anyone else. And so we see what pleases the Supreme Lord is serving according to our ability. And so it is very practical that we work for Krishna, whatever our ability is. We make our existence surrounded by Krishna. And so what this verse of Yuktam Vairagya says is that one utilizes all of their available resources, either big or small, whatever they are. But they use them for Krishna's pleasure, not their own pleasure. Real renunciation means to renounce one's possessions for their own sense gratification and use them only for Krishna's pleasure. That is real renunciation. Not walking away from one's business, walking away from one's profession, or walking away from one's family. That is not recommended. What is recommended is use all of those facilities in the service of Krishna. That is one of the principal ingredients Krishna is saying here. To reach him is to work for him. He is the ultimate employer, the ultimate boss, who is so loving and so grateful and so pleasing that by whatever service we can offer, big or small, remember, that is only in our eyes. In Krishna's eyes, he is looking only at what ability we have, and of that ability, how much we are offering to him. And this is the loving nature of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so this is the second and third paragraph, where we see about working for him. So I'll read one more paragraph, maybe, just in the interest of time. The word Matparama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to higher planets, such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahmajyotir, effulgence. For he wants to enter to the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Madbhakta, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with Him, and surrendering everything unto Him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8, or 7, or at least 1, and that will surely make one perfect. So here, Srila Prabhupada, for our great benefit, is guiding us and indicating that Krishna is speaking about the supreme abode, and one who reaches that has achieved the highest perfection of life. We are all looking for perfection of life. Anybody doesn't want perfect life? We all do. And we all have different definitions of what perfection is. And that definition evolves. When we were a young child, we thought, oh, if I just have my own home, and my own bank account, and my own vehicle, I will have perfect life. But we know once we achieve that, oh, I want, a promotion. I want my own office in the building. I want my own, title. I want this, then I'll have it. Or I want, 2 cars, or a family and children. And we keep defining these ideas of perfection. But when we achieve it, we know it is not satisfying what we are looking for. Because the real perfection of life is returning the spirit soul back home where it came from. That is the eternal nature of the soul. It is not to try to enjoy this world by trying to eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and defend nicely. And so, Srila Prabhupada is talking to us about the Mat Parama refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. And why is that the highest perfection of life? As I mentioned, even in the spiritual world, beyond the material realm, there are different varieties of spiritual planets. And the highest of all is Krishna Loka. And what distinguishes or makes it the highest of all? It is because it is what service pleases Krishna the most. Krishna is most pleased in Goloka Vrindavan. It is considered like his home. That is home for him. And his devotees who engage with service to him in that mood is most pleasing to Krishna. And thus that makes it the highest of all. Not because it is the northernmost or the highest altitude. The highest by definition of what pleases Krishna the most. So the devotee who has knowledge then knows where to aspire for. If I know all the different options of where one can go with knowledge, then I can determine which is best. With some limited knowledge, one may aspire to go to some of the higher material planets. Let me go to Brahmaloka. That is the highest planet. Well, it is the highest planet within this material world. But even there is suffering, difficulty, maybe in less degrees, but still it is there. But if that's all I know, then I'll assume that's the highest perfection. But if I have a complete picture of all the different options, then I can understand what is the best. And Srila Prabhupada is telling us that there are so many different varieties of options, but the highest of all is achieving service to Krishna in Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. And that is the desire of the devotee. So one must, if we want to have this association like Arjuna had with Krishna, we must aspire to reach this Krishna Loka. And how to get there? There are 9 processes of devotional service. And they start with Shravana, hearing what we are doing here. How do we acquire knowledge? By hearing from authority, by hearing from Srila Prabhupada. We acquire knowledge. When we acquire knowledge, we then develop the interest in kirtanam, speaking about it. And when we have knowledge and we are speaking about it, then we have remembrance. Remembrance comes from this attraction. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Shmaranam. These are the first of the three processes that Srila Prabhupada is speaking about. And of them, hearing is the most important. Because by hearing, we then awaken our taste for chanting. Chanting is the most powerful process, the most potent process for devotional service. It is also the simplest of process. Just chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. If we take to this process of chanting with great sincerity, not casually, then we will quickly achieve this highest perfection of life. If we protected our chanting as carefully as we are currently protecting our bodies, right now we have gone into this social distancing and this isolation to protect our bodies, and it is the right thing to do. We must do it. But if we apply that same formula, same sincerity to our chanting, distancing ourselves from all distractions during our chanting, protecting anything that might negatively influence our chanting, making it our number one priority. Is there any larger priority right now than protecting our body, our health? But if we really understood what is going to give us perfection, and we apply these same principles to our chanting, then we will have quickly this highest perfection of life. There is no greater perfection one can achieve than the opportunity to serve Krishna in his eternal home, Goloka Vrindavan. That is the highest of all. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given it to us with this very simple process. And in this time, where we have a little more time, if we take more sincerely to this process of chanting, there will be extraordinary gain for all of us. But not only all of us, but everyone around us. And that is the opportunity we have. If we really want to take something away from this current crisis, that is it. Use our time very wisely and protect our chanting as carefully as we are protecting our physical being. Protect our most potent spiritual asset, the chanting of the holy names, and we'll find great success. So I pray that we can all increase our chanting, increase the quality of our chanting, and increase our physical well-being all together during this time. And if we start with our spiritual process, our physical process will hold. And so next week we're going to discuss the last two parts of this verse, one of which is, who is friendly to every living being. We're going to talk about this mood of compassion. And there is a lot of feeling of compassion today, and it is rightly there. And we're going to speak about how the devotee is the ultimate well-wisher of all living entities. Not just themselves, but for all living entities. And so we'll talk about that in relation to our current environment. So we're almost finishing chapter 11. We'll conclude next week. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Tanitlam, all good to hear Prabhupada Guru Maharaj. Very nice class, Prabhuji. I had a question that in the beginning you mentioned that Arjuna was, Krishna showed his original form to Arjuna. So was that the first time or second? I mean, how many times has he shown his original form, the Vishnu form to Arjuna?
No, his original form is the two-armed form.
Okay.
That is the original form. Remember, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna in his two-armed form, that is the original form of Krishna. So he returned. Of course, Arjuna has always seen only that form. From there he saw the universal form. And there he became awestruck. Oh, wait, this original form, well, I took it for granted. I took it casually. Because in Krishna's two-armed form, he looks like us, right? The mood is more intimate. With the universal form, it's much more of awe and reverence. And so he was thinking, wow, I used to lie in the same bed with you. I used to joke with you. What have I done? Then he shows his four-armed form, his Narayan form. And then Arjuna asks, may I now have darshan of your original form? And that's the form that he had started his relationship with as well. So Krishna, in his origin, that's why Lord Brahma says, right? Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigara Nadir Adir Govinda. The source of all sources, Anadir Adir, is Govinda, Krishna. So from Krishna comes Balaram, from Balaram comes the different expansions, the different forms of Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, all the different incarnations, Lord Ramchandra, Narsingha, Vamana, Matsya, Kurma, and unlimited expansions. But Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Swayam, he is the source of all. And that is, so Krishna in his original form, in the two-armed, and where does he reside? Goloka Vrindavan. That's where he resides. And that is the highest platform of bhakti. Thank you.
One more question, if I may ask.
Yes, please.
I wanted to know, like, for example, if someone is newly interested in this concept of Krishna consciousness, what is something that they can do at this point of time, and we are online, so just maybe listening to lectures, what is one thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing to do in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, in the middle of Krishna consciousness, and at the end in perfection of Krishna consciousness, is to chant. So the best thing we can do is engage in chanting of the holy names. And again, in the beginning, we engage in chanting one round, 10 minutes. But do it consistently. And chant the holy names of the Lord. And if a little bit extra time, additional time remains in their quota for practicing Krishna consciousness in this early stage, then we can engage them in hearing some of the introductory topics, the introductory concepts. We have these journey of self-discovery sessions online. We have classes on Bhagavad Gita. We have classes on nectar of instruction, which help build some of the principles, where those principles will lead one to chant. So we can encourage them, even if not understanding, just chant for your own well-being, even if it's for physical whatever it may be. Of course, we want to bring them to a higher purpose, but whatever it takes, however we can engage them in the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. So that is what we can do in this time, and we can begin to introduce these topics of Krishna consciousness, and ultimately we tell them that there's a money-back guarantee. Just try it. 30 days. You've had millions of lifetimes. What's 30 days? Give it a shot. You'll see a tangible difference, a tangible experience. So let Krishna reciprocate with them to give them some additional faith in the process. That is what we can do, and give some virtual association, speak with them, answer questions for them, and help them understand chanting, most powerful, beginning, middle, and end.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Question?
There's a comment online. It says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. My understanding,
Okay.
my understanding of this verse, Prabhu, as conditioned souls, to reach the ultimate goal mentioned here, we need to be in shelter of Guru and association of devotees constantly, through which we get necessary inspiration and guidance to build faith in Krishna consciousness, so that ultimately we can reach him in this lifetime. Please correct me.
Yes. So that is from our dear friend Madan Gaur Prabhu from India. So, yes, the knowledge by which we understand how to practice devotional service comes from the spiritual master, from Guru, who instructs us and inspires us to take to the process of devotional service. And that is why Krishna told us in the 4th chapter, 7 chapters ago, Tad vidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upapdekshanti te jana jnaninastata darshina. That one must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the truth. The truth. One who has seen the truth, tattva darshina, can reveal it to you. So we cannot figure this out on our own. So it is by the mercy of the spiritual master, by rendering service to Guru, that one acquires the knowledge and the ability to render this pure devotional service. Because this platform of devotional service is very high. But by the mercy of Guru and by the mercy of Krishna, it can be had relatively easily. Not because of our ability, but because of the extraordinary mercy of Guru and Krishna. When those combine, whatever condition we may be in, the most fallen of the fallen, the most impure, doesn't matter. With the power of Guru and the power of Krishna, anything is possible. But it takes our surrender and willingness and intense desire to be under their shelter. So we must desire it very strongly. And the only time we'll desire it strongly is when we have faith that this material world is not for me. And it is only the spiritual master who can uplift me to a higher perfection life. Srila Rupa Goswami, in giving the 64 angas of devotional service, he says one should accept a spiritual master once they have convinced themselves this material world is not a place that one can find happiness and be successful, and 2, they're convinced they need help. Then one should approach the spiritual master. And by doing so, one can execute this 5-part recipe prescribed here in this verse. That will be enabled by the mercy of the Guru. And association of devotees is of utmost importance. In this time, we are, I think, I hope, at least I can say for myself, deeply missing and in pain separated from devotees. It is so difficult. And it is a great and extraordinary reminder. So when that opportunity for association returns, may we not take it so casually. Sometimes, yesterday we were celebrating Ram Navami, and I'm sure all of us were deeply missing the opportunity to be under the shelter of Shri Radha Kunj Vihari. But 2 years from now, 3 years from now, festival may come and think, I don't know, it's raining out, it's far, or I have this or that. Right? So in these times of separation, it increases our taste and enthusiasm for that. So the separation is also a blessing, though it's very painful. If we use it constructively, it can help inspire really strong association with devotees when that opportunity returns. And of course, we can associate in this way, which is not, as potent as in person, but we'll take what we can get. Because at least speaking for myself, very desperate and very thirsty for this association. So we'll take what we get. We have this Zoom opportunity, Facebook, and it's a nice chance for us to associate in some ways. So yes, your understanding is nice, and thank you for allowing me to comment on it a little bit. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
Question from Bhagavad Gita page. Amataji is asking that when will we get out from this situation?
When will we get out from this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I presume she's speaking of the COVID-19 situation. So there's a very exacting answer of exactly when we'll get out of this situation. When Krishna ordains it to happen. So it will happen when he has it as the right thing to happen. So that we know. Now when he'll do that, we don't have a crystal ball. Krishna consciousness does not give us the ability to see the future. But we have faith that Krishna says, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all of us, of every living entity. And this current difficulty, it will pass. It will. And it will pass on the strength of our, Krishna consciousness and the increased piety of the world. There's actually, by this forced shutdown, so many sinful activities are no longer allowed to be done. You cannot go to casinos anymore. The consumption of liquor is reduced. The ability for illicit affairs to happen is reduced. So these different activities are even being limited, which is in one way it's resulting in the reduction in this bad karma. So the heat, not physical heat, but figurative, is lessening by this. So this will pass. It will, go, and this disease will be conquered. When? It is in Krishna's hands. He knows exactly when, and when he deems it right, it will get conquered. But remember, that will not bring an end to our suffering. I'm sorry to say. Solving and overcoming COVID-19 will not bring about perfection of life. It will resolve this very significant and meaningful difficulty. But there will be another one of something different flavor to come after it. Unless one follows this recipe that Krishna is giving. And as we discussed yesterday, in the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, if we can collectively, as a society, increase the awareness of our rightful position and increase knowledge of these dangerous, sinful ways of life, we can create an extraordinary existence here. Lord Ramachandra was able to create the environment of Satyuga in Treta Yuga. And Prabhupada writes, it can happen even in Kali Yuga, if we follow the example set forth in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, if we, can muster up our own energy, and when this thing subsides and allows us to go out, and we go out and we very actively spread this message, then we can actually prevent future such occurrences from coming. So let us pray that we have the intelligence, strength, and ability to render this service, and that is part of what we're going to discuss next week, because that's one of the formula. One part of this formula is who is friendly to every living being. How can we be friendly to all the living beings? It's not by liking them on Facebook. It is by increasing our collective spiritual consciousness. Thank you. Next question. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll meet again. We'll have a class tomorrow, and also we'll have next week. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.